Hello friends, Kisol here. Please welcome to part 6 of this 9-part series about the life of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. In the last chapter, we discussed 1. Jesus going into the wilderness. 2. The temptation of Jesus. 3. The beginning of Jesus' mission. And 4. The Great Sermon on the Mount. In this 6th chapter, we will continue and discuss 1. Jesus and his disciples. 2. The miracles of Jesus. 3. Jesus and the temple priests. And 4. The word of Jesus Christ. Again, all these topics are very important, so please stay tuned. It is again very relevant to remind listeners of the great importance of the life of Jesus Christ on earth. Please listen objectively as we explore his life. We will forever give jubilant thanks to the Almighty the Father for his great love and mercy, for sending his Son for our salvation. Now we go on to the first topic in this chapter. Jesus Christ chose his disciples very carefully. He chose them among the common men so that this could explain his word to the common people in a way that they could understand. Additionally, these disciples were simple men who had not distorted themselves through excessive learning in schools. Learnedness will have destroyed their ability to receive in simplicity from Jesus into their spirits without the interfering intellect. Jesus needed simple men of spirit who could absorb his message as he wanted it and transmit this message to others undistorted and not dissected by the brain and the intellect. It is very important to make this distinction, as there is a logic to what Jesus did in his choice of disciples. To receive from the light, our spirits have to be open, and we have to be humble and simple enough for this. On the other hand, an overburdened and overdeveloped intellect receives nothing from the spiritual, and as such cannot transmit anything either. These disciples then were the right mix for what Jesus wanted to impart and to transmit to mankind through them. Jesus performed deeds and miracles that had never been performed before by anyone. These deeds were meant to arouse people from their spiritual sleep. They were meant to make people wonder and look out for him. On meeting him, they would then hear his word. These deeds were meant to bring people to Jesus so that they might hear what he had to say. On hearing his word, they will then come across their salvation, which laid in the word of Jesus. The word which he brought was the most important. The word was meant to be listened to and absorbed within. Then, acting according to this word, the hearers will change themselves for the better, thereby releasing themselves from the clutches of the darkness within them. Anyone who could perform the kind of miracles that Jesus performed had to come from God. They were miracles of good deeds that could only have come from someone directly linked to God. This was then the way back to God through listening to the word of Jesus and acting accordingly. So the miracles were manifold acts of mercy, not just for those who were healed, but also for those who were witnesses to these miracles. They were beautiful, and they worked wonders in the souls of those who were open to receive these experiences. Jesus' most ardent enemies were the members of the priestly class. The leaders of the then religion did not like what Jesus had to say. Jesus, with his teaching, undermined them and was a threat to their authority, income, and prestige. At every opportune moment, they opposed him and sought to slander him. The fact that many people now flocked to Jesus and followed him weakened their power and influence and also their income, because now the temple offerings were not as forthcoming as before. They were also afraid of being labeled false teachers and leaders. It was this vanity of being called false, among other things, that led to their attacks. The irony, though, is that these people actually professed to be servants of God. If indeed they were servants of God, in the true sense of the word, they should indeed have welcomed the Son of God into their midst with happiness and joy. The fact that they opposed him from the very start is indicative that in reality they were not servants of God, but only pretended to serve God. They only served their own vanity and arrogance. They were only interested in the power and influence and authority that their positions in society afforded them. They were not interested in the well-being of the souls of their parishioners. These were men of intellect, who had ironically reached a point where they could not understand the higher spiritual concepts explained by the Son of God. It is ironic because they should have been best placed to understand Jesus. Jesus still felt the need to choose his disciples outside of this priestly class because he could find no one that he could choose among them. It was a devastating indictment on these priests by God, who gave his judgment on these priests by choosing his own disciples outside their ranks. The primary reason for the coming of Jesus to this earth was to give the word of the Father. He came here to teach the word of the Father and the laws of the Father. He came to teach us how the world works. He came to show us the structure of creation, the nature of man, and the nature of God. He came to show us and to teach us how to behave and how to understand ourselves and the entire creation. In short, his mission was a teaching mission, to teach mankind who they really were and how they should adjust to the laws of God, so that we would adjust ourselves accordingly to the laws and avoid spiritual and earthly suffering. He came to point the way back to God. He told us to change our ways for the better, to become better human beings. That way, we become pleasing to God, and then our lives will be happy and trouble-free. His word was the truth out of our spiritual darkness and confusion, freedom from the yoke of suffering and dogma and spiritual slavery. Unfortunately, it was opposed right from the very beginning by those who were already in power as priests and who pretended to serve God. They used the earthly power in their hands to oppose the word and works of the Lord and finally bring him to the cross. His death, therefore, was a consequence of the envy and hatred harbored towards him by those who held religious positions and who felt threatened by his activities among the people. With his word, Jesus encouraged people to show love towards one another, which was something sorely lacking among mankind, and this is still the case today, unfortunately. It was this love that was and still is the surest way back to God. One would not be able to harm one's fellow man in any way if we had the kind of love that Jesus demanded of us. This word then was the most important and the real reason for his coming to this earth. Thank you again for listening. In the next chapter, we explore 1. Jesus' enemies. 2. Jesus' antagonists. 3. Jesus and the Last Supper and his disciples. And 4. The betrayal of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. For more information, please go to the websites jesuslifeevents.com or spiritualknowledge.org or thegrailmessage.info or grailmessage.com. You can also go to the Facebook page, Introduction to the Grail Message. Thank you. See you then. Bye-bye.